reading minds, if you can read emotions, or if you can read emotions, you can read minds. It's similar because emotions rule the mind, time and mind, and male, female, and that saying, behind every great man is a woman. So God, Libra, balance, it's the shifting emotions that keep the balance. So, and you can see that in the midpoints between planets as a visual representation of that transiting and shifting. So behind every great man is a woman. Behind the mind, ruling the mind, is your emotions, the moon. So if you can master your emotions, you can master your mind. Mind over time, time being emotions, because it's what shows us that we're progressing, how we feel, the shifting emotions, the shifting tides. It's all pretty much right in front of our eyes. Hey, that rhymes. So this real-time playlist ambulance. Easily keep the balance if you can understand your emotions and the characteristics of those emotions and the signs, astrological signs, which are like categories and an organizational tool for understanding those emotions and those characteristics, those dynamics within yourself and within areas where you interact with others, hence the houses. But so this playlist is going to be an experiment as well, to see how accurate my predictions are, even though I think I have a pretty good track record so far, but to analyze it a little bit more time-wise and how far out things happen, and maybe you can find a pattern in the so it's in real time and just predictions of things happening in or around real time, give or take a few days to probably a week. I seem to be able to predict things about a week out. So from the second I post the video to like a week out or so, but to be flexible with it, because things nearby seem to be more prevalent, or more seem to come across to me stronger. Like I can pretty much know at any given second what's going on with people in my house, to some degree. I mean, not always. It also kind of depends on how like receptive you're being at that point in time, but or how much you're paying attention and focusing on trying to understand the energy in you, coming at you, around you. Anyways, but things further away, they either just depending on the, that is the shortest light ever. Depending on the magnitude of the event, larger events, you would probably feel stronger. Waves of emotion, mounts of people, and mass creating a stronger force of energy coming at you. Trying to do a few things at one time right now, multitasking, exercising those brain muscles. Kind of be flexible with it, and also I might not pick up on something as strongly or understand it as much or be able to interpret it, just depending on like how far away it is from me, or especially in something that's completely like unfamiliar to me. It's not always clear how things, the exact context things are coming through. It's really just being able to pick up on emotions and being able to interpret those emotions. Being receptive, opening yourself up to that. Once you've sort of understood and able to detach from it, so almost step back and analyze the emotions coming in. It sounds strange, but emotions are what rule our mind and our choices, and how we react to things, and what we act on, and what we choose to do, and why, and everything down to the choice of color someone makes when painting. So you can see emotion in everything, and you can almost pick up the emotion from a painting just by looking at it, once you really find a way to connect the senses in a way that makes sense to you. I'm just passing an auto shop called the Apollo Family Medical Center. Maybe it's not an auto shop. And there's a picture of Jesus with a crown of thorns painted on the garage. That's at 21st Street and Western in Chicago. It's not where I live, so it's just passing through 21st Street and Western. It's kind of like the world card. Western is this main long street. I think it's the longest highway. I guess it's a highway. Not a highway. It's like it's just like a big main road. It goes like all the way down throughout Chicago. It's like the longest road. Did I say that? Oh, shit. I feel so bad. I don't have anything to give him. I'm sorry. I don't have anything. I really don't carry cash on me. It's like the main drag, which reminds me of that latest song. And I had passed a street called Black Hawk earlier, which is what made me think of Black Hawk Down and a sense of urgency to post that movie, which I hadn't thought about probably in what are you supposed to do when you're like nearly through a yellow light and then you get like a ticket? It's fucking bullshit. They really need to do something about the speed limits here too, because they change every block. I'm probably going to get a ticket. No. Oh, it's a really cool building. It looks like an accordion. Take a picture while I'm doing this. Shit. There's like squares, like a kind of like the Issey Miyake 1997 collection that I added to the Midpoint playlist. I think it's that. Like the bouncy origami pleated dresses. That's what the building looked like, but with obviously more structure. Just squares getting larger. But yeah, so once you open yourself up to that way of thinking, of understanding your emotions, and it's not even just like so much emotions, because I feel like emotions get a bad rap. You know, it's like weak or something. No, it's being some sort of mental warrior. Sounds so corny, but yeah. But, you know, cheesy is good. Cheesy's good because it reminds you not to take yourself so seriously, and that you can make light out of things, even some of the worst things. So it's good to add some cheese in your life. Which is why, oh my gosh, that I think it was the August, again, freaking yellow light. I have to go through a red light. In the August playlist for the star 17, I thought of vitamin D, and I think in that reading that made up the playlist, had talked about getting some vitamin D, getting outside and getting some sunshine, and sometimes I just imagine the star girl, the star woman on the card. God, where are the frickin' lanes? As like pouring out, you know, inspiration, pouring out some metaphorical, you know, goodwill, hope, but it can be more like specific things too, like water or something like that. Watering the gardens, and just, you know, nurturing what's good, and inspiring it to grow. And so it's kind of a funny song though for that, but it is like throw some D's on that. I don't remember what the rest of the lyrics were, but there were some D's on that bitch, I think. I don't know. Why is there a recording of my speed limit, but there's no sign as to what the speed limit is? It's going back and forth between 20 and 30 miles an hour every block. See, now it's back to 30. Anyways, that song, I don't know where this memory popped out of, but I remember being on spring break, and it was like, I think my junior or senior year in college, junior year, I think, and I went with my boyfriend in college, and his fraternity brothers, friends, their girlfriends, and like some friends of the fraternity down to Florida, Pensacola, Florida, and it was just really fun. And you know, we just rented a house on kind of like an isolated beach in kind of a quiet town, and so we just had a bunch of like house parties and things like that, but went out a few nights, and it was like just a really good memory. Makes me want to go to the beach, but I just had this memory pop out of nowhere that made me think of that song, and we were just like, it's just totally random. It's something that I just had passed by, going from like the bedroom to the living room or something, and there's my boyfriend's best friend and his girlfriend in the kitchen, and she's not paying attention, talking to her friends, and he, I think, was pretty drunk, I don't know, but he was taking some those American cheese slices, Velveeta cheese slices, and that song was playing, and he just kept throwing them at her, and they'd stick to her back. Throw some cheese on that bitch, and they were just the typical like Texas couple, so it was kind of funny. Maybe you had to be there, but she was like a sorority girl. I just remember her being like, "Brad, stop it." and he just kept doing it. Just a really, it was funny. It made me think of that song and being by the beach, which kind of resembles the star card too. So I don't know, I just like to connect things, and sometimes random memories pop out of nowhere. And they make me think of a song or a movie or something, and that in itself, and it's all about timing too, but that in itself is something, a way that I put together the playlist to see what it applies to that movie then. And I swear though, sometimes it's like like a memory of a song or movie or something, like something that was completely applicable to a theme or theme that I'm talking about, or in the videos and the playlists, or some big like event or something completely relevant, and yet and that I've heard of, that I know well, and somehow it just escapes you. It's almost like it was erased from your memory until that point, and then you're like, how did I not add this to the playlist before? How did I not think about this song before? Because it applies perfectly to some, a date or something like that. And but it's about timing. You could put up a million playlists, but unless they apply at the same time as predicted events and things like that, it's all about timing. Otherwise, you're just repeating yourself, and there's no real order or reason for it, I guess. So knowing the right time to post something that gives enough time to react, or to inform, or to inspire, or just to work for the playlist at that moment. There's so many videos that, just listening to Spotify or iTunes, or, before that, like, is this person asleep? Okay. Just like completely stalled. So, what was I saying? So sometimes those songs just pop into your head that really should have been included before, because they're that, obvious, but they pop into your head at the right time in order to make them significant and relevant in a more profound way than just any time something happens, I guess, or if that makes sense. And it's kind of funny, I've realized, from wherever you believe I'm getting messages from, or information from, or energy from in the readings, and inspired to predict certain things, and I think it's, I didn't exactly set out to do things this way, especially, and didn't realize that, in trying to prove a point that, Jesus, 3 major trucks just really nearly, killed me with, their lights were blinding. So, what was I saying before I nearly died? So I think whenever you imagine something, it takes imagination to make something real. First you have to imagine it. And in doing so, it's kind of like a trial and error, like an experiment, because you don't know if something is going to work or be the way that you imagine it until you try it out. I mean, these are all basic concepts, but if you can think about it in the bigger picture, like, it's so hard to explain, but I think I lost my train of thought, but it was whoever or wherever you believe in these messages from. I've been doing some other little experiments I'll have to do a video for to see, to test chants and of like wavelengths, airwaves, and it's really interesting how, it's completely off subject of what I was talking about, but really it does all end up fitting together. So eventually and profoundly, I think, at least to me, car just came from behind and got in front of me, and it was R26111. Big black car. Never seen those license plates again except for in the playlist, the ones that I had talked about, and they weren't like the White Sox, black and white. It was there, and they weren't like European cars with very wide. They were just, it was the strangest thing, just completely like slick black and big bold white letters. I didn't see any like other insignia on them, anything that indicated where it was from. I don't even remember seeing Illinois on them. Why were they sitting outside my house? God's will. Top X gun. I have to anagram that. Top X gun. Top by gun. Or like Top Gun is what I thought of, but like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I've never even seen the movie. Just, the Song of Berlin. I really need to catch up on some classics, because I've never, there's some movies that I just cannot believe I've never completely seen. E.T. being one of them. E.T. scared the shit out of me when I was younger. I have never seen, I had to turn it off halfway through. I've never seen it all the way through to this day. It just like creeped me out with his little, like, it just looked so creepy, and I was terrified of it. Terrified. Ugh, it gave me the chills, and I was so scared I believed he lived in my toilet. I don't know why. Why would I think that? Maybe it's something in the movie I don't remember because I haven't seen it since, but I was, terrified to go into the bathroom because I thought he lived in my toilet. It still kind of creeps me out. I don't know. I hope Steven Spielberg doesn't ever listen to this. So I've gone off on a lot of different tangents. So I'm distracted and driving and just talking as I drive. And testing, the things you're picking up on, so you can find more reason behind it and kind of keep track. And this experiment, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, and I said I'll do a video on to show, where I use 2 blocks and 2 color dots, or 1 color dot, 1 dot on each block, and rolled the dice 20 times, sometimes 21 times. I was, it's an experiment. It was meant to be kind of more like a game. I thought, well, I'll have to explain on the video. It makes more sense, but rolling it 20 times to see how many times the dots came up, and on, 2 blank slots for each roll, and if the pale blue dots popped up once or twice, and I put a X or no in that place for that blank space, rhyming again, in that that dice roll. So, and just kept score and went down the page. And it was interesting, whenever I was thinking something in my head, like wondering something, it would come out on the left side, I think. And whenever I'd ask a question and got like some sort of sense of an answer, the dot would pop up on the dice on the right side. It makes more sense with visuals. But and if there was no pale blue dots at all, just left the 2 blank slots blank. And I've done it a couple of times, and each time I get a spiral from left to right, which is kind of cool to see. There, something in the energy wavelengths or something dictating the chances, I guess. So I thought I would do it like once a week and see if it happens again, and kind of thing. And then I counted all the slots between the times the pale blue dots popped up, and there was a pattern in that too. And then I was led to look up a Bible verse, just kind of popped in my head, and I don't remember Bible verses. I just kind of happen to know like some of the chapters, books, and names, and numbers come through, and a name pops in your mind, and that's kind of pulled from your subconscious or familiarity or whatever, and for whatever reason, and connected. And so, this is the first or second time this really happened to me, and so I was led to look up, because of those numbers in between the pale blue dots, if you're following me. Again, 20 miles an hour, why? Led me to Mark chapter 3:11, because those numbers were coming through, 3, 5, 9, 11, I think. I don't remember, I don't have it on me. And just adding up all the numbers too, or maybe it was Mark 8:11, something like that. It was one of those chapters in the book, and it was talking about all the miracles that Jesus did, on a real theological kick right now. So there's some interesting passages in that, and it's kind of like a treasure hunt or discovery excavation of information to see what your subconscious is telling you to do, and how the results and what you end up looking up or are led to find, how they connect and relate in your life or to what you've been talking about, and just how our subconscious, I guess, are all connected in some way, and wavelengths are coming through, and there's just all this stuff going on. So I don't know, it makes more sense with visuals, and you can see the logic and the understand a little bit better what I'm talking about. But you're also welcome to look up those passages. I think it's Mark and then you can almost like trace back your subconscious, like, why did I think of Mark, and what have I seen recently that has to do with the name Mark. And I think I'd seen something on CNN about Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, and that must have been where that was, subconscious little pop, came from. Things are like planted in our subconscious and brought to our attention or to the forefront of our minds, at certain times for certain reasons. So it pays to listen to yourself and to not, ignore things that are emotional, but to almost be able to analyze them, your subconscious, your emotions, the things that drive us, and the, things that are more hidden. The moon card, the high priestess, which is also very funny because the Mona Lisa video that I did, and then didn't work because there was like 5 or 6 songs in the video playing in the background that I guess too many to copyright, so it was blocked. But I could still see it, so I wasn't sure if like other people could see it, and finally I'm so lazy. I finally signed out and my account to see if you could view it without, being signed in, and like you couldn't. So I'm like, oh well. But at the same time, for the past like week, and I couldn't figure it out. Every time I'd put a playlist on shuffle to test something, it would only play song number 2 in all of the playlists. And it was like hexed. Like it would not. I wrote to them. I tried all the things that you would think of, like, clearing your browsing data and cache, and restarting your computer and internet and trying a different internet. And no matter what, I was on Internet Explorer, I was on Google Chrome, like I was trying all the, it would, anytime you put a playlist on shuffle, it would only play number 2, which wouldn't be a huge deal, but because like it was so, like I do use the shuffle button and I'm probably on YouTube more than some people, and Jesus, where is the freaking lanes? And when you do all of that and it's like it's still not working, you're like, what the fuck? Like, is my computer hacked? And finally, I was just kind of bored. I'm like, maybe if I cut the, edit and cut down the Mona Lisa video, it'll be okay. You can like watch the whole, maybe I'll just do the part that I talk about in the description and why I put it up. And so once I did that, all of a sudden, and then posted it and it worked, so I guess it was okay to use that song. Not even use it, it was like in the background. It's not on purpose, but so talking too much. Once I posted the edited version of the iMona video, all of a sudden shuffle worked again. And I'm like, am I going crazy? Because it's just fucking shuffle, but like, why? So I guess it was just trying to say edit, cut, copy, paste, new video. I think of the 2 of Swords because that kept popping up, and I'm like, what? I put it up, I put the 2 of Swords MIA song up, and I couldn't figure it out why that 2 of Swords kept coming up. And now I see, if you want to go along this train of thought with me, that it was telling me to edit, cut, and copy the new video of that, and it wasn't going to let me, like, if for some reason it's important, I don't know. Just a really annoying reminder. I feel like the other side has a very ironic and dry sense of humor, and which sounds crazy to say, but like I'm very comfortable with crazy now. It's fine. God, that just looks like my ex-boyfriend from Texas. So weird. But yeah, where was I going with that train of thought? So yeah, it was, it was a reminder of having to edit that, and the other side is a funny sense of humor. And looking back at a lot of the playlists now, I realize there's, yet another layer to those playlists, and having to do with theology and faith and belief systems and God and story narratives of Jesus and Mary and all, and I couldn't really figure out why all these things kept coming up. I mean, I hadn't been watching anything that, just random little tidbits or thoughts would pop in my mind, and that's why I would, I guess, put together a playlist and all these other reasons. But looking back at it now, it's some of the songs are kind of funny and kind of, especially in the order and the structure of the tarot and numerology and astrology and all of the reasons and layers and meanings, and everything means everything. I don't know. But yeah, I'm kind of God has a sense of humor. You kind of always think that, but yeah, I don't know, it's funny when it actually lays out in your choices and what trying to prove something that I guess ultimately becomes real, and then you're like, oh yeah, I was just trying to prove a point. I didn't realize that that it was making it, that it was, then when it's real, it hits you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because until it's real, all these are very, I don't know, I feel like basic concepts, but what I'm trying to explain is more, I don't know, I guess deeper than that, but, yeah, CVS and how we mimic, our creator, and if you believe in a creator. But I didn't even think about that story that I told about seeing God in CVS when I was trying desperately to make those blocks and writing, it's a sign. I figured if that came up, it's something really important to take note of. It couldn't be more clear. There's something that, it's a sign. Here it is. It's written, blue and gold right in front of you. And how it's just so strange that afternoon, having asked for a sign if this is real and having seen those license plates. Oh yeah, okay, I think I'm coming full circle now. But how I was almost in disbelief, I guess, or just it doesn't seem exactly real, or I don't know, but how he was wearing a shirt, and not even half an hour later, please God, give me a sign if this is real, if this is if there's something why are all these strange things happening to me, if I'm not just being paranoid, or I'm not crazy, and I'm not just reading into signs and things like that. Give me a sign if there's more to it, basically, is what I asked and after seeing those license plates parked outside my car, and I think having seen one prior, and I don't know, to look back, good thing I documented all this, but yeah, just no more than 30 minutes later, walking into CVS just on a whim too, and just being completely taken aback. I know I've seen shirts similar to that on Instagram, just they're kind of cheesy shirts, I've seen God, or God's something or other, I don't know, but that it was a black shirt too, just having seen those license plates that were just completely big bold white letters. I've seen God, or I think that's what it said. Again, I'll have to look back. And that he, had dreads and he was wearing black matrix sunglasses and just kind of looking around, like smiling at the lights, basically. Looked kind of like entertained, I guess. But thinking then back after I made those blocks, like, I couldn't have been more clear. It's a sign, like, just how maybe that's how the other side or whatever you believe in feels, like, especially when things are right in front of our faces, like walking into CVS and seeing this, this guy, and I don't know, things are just, maybe I have too much time on my hands, but or maybe I have big imagination. But all these stories are real, and I don't practice magic tricks, like, it's cool if you do, but I don't. And so it's not fun if it's at least for me, it's not fun if I'm I want to be surprised too. I want to go through the wow, something interesting or divine or magical or something happened with people, and the less you are trying to make something like that happen, the more authentic it seems, and it is, and just all of these things I didn't set out to do. And really in this way, I'm thinking back to my original, when I started doing, it just seems like a lifetime ago, and what I was aiming for then. And I was shaken in that video, and really thrown off, because it was such a real experience. And then I'm walking out of CVS, and I have iTunes or something, Spotify, I think, on, which is what, I think I was saying before, living in New York, taking the subway, I wasn't always watching, I'd listen more to iTunes and Spotify. And with growing up, I wasn't a huge music buff of what's going on, sort of, just, but the main things, so many of these videos I've never seen before. And then I was in seclusion, so and I kept the same playlist going, basically, then just learned about astrology in my spare time. So I had not seen so many of these videos, and it's just so strange how so many things and dates and lyrics and things match up when you're looking for it, I guess. But beyond that, seems extremely, I don't know, meaningful when these things line up. And when I walked out of CVS, going back, when I walked out of CVS, I had Spotify on, just on shuffle again, and I like to see if things kind of match up with what I'm walking by or seeing, or who I run into, or what I'm doing. And it does always, not even just in the way that we like to think of a soundtrack to our lives, but in strange freaky ways. As soon as I walked out of CVS, and I was kind of what just happened, and I put on Spotify and pressed shuffle, and that song that said, "I found religion in the Hallmark aisle" comes on. I mean, it's so strange. And so you're okay, so I guess that is the most obvious sign in the world, and I even did something like that. So you can kind of guess that not that I was trying to have a sense of humor, but I just, I want things to be obvious, and maybe things are just so much more in front of our faces than we realize. And if so, and that was exactly what I asked for, sign, and couldn't have been more obvious, what else, if you're, if you were God, imagine for a second someone, your creation asked you for a sign, and there was a reason to give them one. What would you do to give them a sign? Probably not I don't know, whatever's sort of obvious to you, things that you would notice. I would notice a shirt, guy with matrix glasses and big bold letters that you could not, he was a big guy too, like, so you could not ignore this guy. And he wasn't wearing a jacket, nothing. It was just like the most obvious thing. And he was walking kind of slow. It's not like I just caught it. You know, I walked by him and I kind of spied in the Hallmark or in the card aisle and pretended to be looking for a card, and just, it was so strange. And then that song comes on, you're like, okay, so I'm almost dumb if I don't take that as a sign, because what more do you want? What more are you looking for? You want like a thunderbolt and, I don't know, something to fall from the sky, or what, you know? So going along that train of thought, if it was a sign, truly, then I've seen God. And for what reason? Why? I mean, is it that important? I wasn't, I guess, probably really expecting to see something, but might as well ask, you know? And that's what I mean, like, until something's like real, it hits you, and then you have to decide, is it actually real, or am I just, you know, especially when you're more prone to live in like possibility land. And it's just, I mean, I think anyone would take that as a sign, especially after the license plates and God's will. And really, like, I pretty much just watch like CNN, so I am very familiar with how many, like, the different types of catheters and like retirement savings loans are out there. And I think I've like donated to a million like charities that all have their like the poor puppies on for like 3 minutes, and you just but so I don't see like a lot of like normal commercials, and especially like trailers and promo. Like, I just actually search for something when it's on my mind, so not too much in advance. So even that Mary Magdalene trailer, I didn't even know that movie was coming out until I searched for just a video having to do with her, and Mary Magdalene typed in search in YouTube, and that came up. I'm like, oh, I didn't know a movie about her was coming out, and came out, of course, like on November 29 being the moon, you know, 26 flip in reverse, and November is my birthday. So it's just kind of like, oh, well, that's perfect timing. And I had no idea. And it's almost like, and in that trailer he says she'll do God's will. I'm like, what the frickin' A? Like, and then you start to like, okay, and because it's more than just a, you know, a similar thought or something. It's like a license plate that says God's will sitting outside your house in a weird way, shape, color, you know, all of it, like, and the cars, big black, like, I'm like, is this Men in Black? Like, what is going on? I'm serious. Like, that's how weird of an afternoon it was. It was an afternoon too. I'm like, just going out for exercise and a walk. Like, I guess, you know, so many things like that happen to me all the time. So it's like, to what end though? Like, to what's the purpose? And do these kinds of things happen to other people? Or are other people looking for those kinds of signs, or having these kinds of experiences and just not talking about it because they don't want to seem crazy or something? And I'm like, look, if you can't handle this, like, that's weird. So anyways, like, and people not talking about it. So, or are these signs and things, weird happenings and minor miracle kind of coincidence, serendipitous, like, events and predictions happening to other, you know, just to me? And if so, I mean, I hope not. I hope other people have these kinds of experiences, because it's awesome. But also, you don't want to be the only one having an experience, because then everyone thinks you're crazy. And yeah, like, but if others don't, then, and it's just you, and I mean, like, why would it be so important to, like, actually convince me? Like, I don't know, except that I'll tell in the next story that my dad who's also very psychic, and both my parents are very psychic in different ways. My mom will like give me things and have to do with like Puerto Rico, and then, you know, something very obvious, or a person, or mention something, or say things that you're just like, what? And my dad, I swear I can like read his mind, especially in close proximity of like, you know, where are my keys? I'm like, oh, your keys are on the counter. He's like, oh, how'd you know I was looking for my keys? Or I'll be like wanting to have something for dinner, and he would come home with that, you know, like more of like a mind thing, him being a Libra. So they're very psychic, and he used to make predictions as well, and he was trusted, and he was helping the Latin kings in Chicago in the 70s, which was pretty dangerous in the projects. And he worked as in a youth ministry and rehabilitation clinic sort of place, and he would also like give youth sermons and stuff, and I don't remember how he got involved with Latin kings, but probably I think something having to do with trying to help one of them or save one of their lives or something with the rehabilitation part of it, or he was involved with that. And so he got to know them, and he would try to, you know, get some of them to get their act together, and he would help some of them, but they trusted him, and he would make predictions like, don't go to that meeting with the Crips or something, I don't know what the other opposing gang, and because so-and-so is going to get shot if you do, and they're like, oh yeah, whatever, and then that would happen. So they would, you know, obviously ask him, you know, how do you know that, and were amazed and trusted him in their like inner circle, which is kind of funny. He was kind of like a youth pastor when he was, you know, getting his master's, and my parents were living in Chicago. So on the side, I guess, I don't know. And so he was very psychic. He'd have very psychic dreams. You know, usually he said those things would come to him in his dreams. And so he's also a very like intellectual guy, and has his PhD in archaeology, the Hittite era in Turkey, and is very you know, thoughtful, and he's writing his memoirs, and he's just, you know, he's an academic at the University of Chicago. Like, he's not some like, yeah, I have dreams and prophetic, you know, like, and it's just kind of off the rocker. Like, he's very quiet and very, you know, thinks a lot, and writes a lot, and used to be actually in documentary film too. That's how he knows people at like Paramount, and just really interesting connections, I guess. And so he's very smart and very conservative. And so for him to say something like that it actually, you know, he wouldn't lie about something like that, and he is very psychic. All these other things happen, so you kind of tend to believe him, and he would have dreams that would inform him of what would happen to, and those people, and he's still involved with that. He has gang outreach in Chicago, and he's worked with a lot of people getting out of prison, getting them jobs and things like that afterwards, and taking them to church, of course, and things like that, but involved in their lives. So it's really great what he's done, but it's just very for him to say something like what he said to me when I was younger, you know, really stuck with me, because he doesn't just say things. He's very cautious and intellectual, and reserved, I guess. And so for him to say something like this to me when I was younger really stuck with me, and I was almost mad because why would he tell me that? I always felt like, well, he told me that he had a dream that God spoke to him somehow and said to take care of me, watch, be, that he had maybe just like make sure I take good care of me because I was going to do something really important one day. And I almost thought it was my dad like wanting, hoping the best for his child, or like trying to, in some religious freak way, like instill like motivation. And I don't know, like I was never understood really why he told me that. I thought it was like, okay, and nothing ever seemed enough for that to warrant something of that magnitude of like God speaking to you in your dream. That's like Bible shit. That's like Daniel in the dreams, right? Like, and is it even believable or whatever? And so I almost resented him for telling me that, because I was always searching for that thing that but nothing ever seemed like, I guess, enough, I guess, to, like I said, warrant that kind of message. So, I don't know. Again, with all these weird happenings, like, maybe there's some connection there, and I just realized I'm sitting across from lights in shape of a cross, but not on purpose, just the way that, the angle that I'm at. Big one in front of a baseball field. Field of Dreams. And with the cut and edit thing, the Mona, it reminded me of the Two of Swords, and since it kept going to number 2, and how we just ignore things sometimes that are right in front of our faces, I guess, but to what end? Because it's still all a mystery to me. Maybe it's a mystery to you, and I don't know who exactly is following along here, but it's been all these weird things. It's always an adventure. And but also pretty like normal, I guess you'd say, at the same time. Like very, I don't know, it's hard to explain. And I hope that what I've tried to document is relative to you and works and shows a little bit insight into what I'm trying to say. And this new real-time experimental playlist, I think from the moment I put something up to, like I said, like a week or so out or forward, to see if and track, like, how soon from the time I post something to when something happens, or if it happens, to test these kinds of things, trying to do things as much in real time the minute I think of them, instead of a planned weekly thing. Well, I'll probably still do that, but this is kind of a side experiment with no start or end date, just when things pop to my mind that I think will happen. Just kind of test, like, also distance and rate of success or not success, however you look at it. Maybe this is more for me, but I hope if you're following along, this interests you as well, because I think, we all just need some sort of point of reference, and you know yourself best, and but I want things to apply to others and to be helpful and all that to others as well. So just because I talk about myself, it's because it's almost like an analyzing, experimental kind of thing too, detached also as a art form as well, and a million other layers and reasons and levels and lines and things like that. So Anyways, I will, again, like I said, be doing another video, and I thought we'll do some love cards because people seem to like those the most, and yeah, but a little bit more spontaneous, I guess, and test some things out, and maybe some of this made sense to you, and perhaps you followed my train of thought and leaps and thought, and I think we came full circle. I think I covered or completed all my thoughts, sentences. Yeah, so thanks for listening. All right, bye.